AfriForum's lawyer, advocate Mark Oppenheimer and EFF leader Julius Malema were in court this week in the ongoing hate speech civil lawsuit launched by the lobby group over the singing of the song Shoot the Boer. AfriForum is demanding a public apology and a total of 500,000 rand to a non-governmental organization combating hatred. Joining me now for more on this is Wiseman Zondi, researcher at the Helen Suzman Foundation. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. So the state is seized with the hate crimes bill. So what exactly are we talking about when we're talking about hate speech? The hate speech bill, I beg your pardon. What exactly are we talking about?
Thank you for having me. I believe that when we talk about hate speech, we are talking about speech that aims to dehumanize a particular group, particularly a group that has been marginalized and discriminated against in the past, and for which that discrimination continues to this day. And so I believe that the hate speech bill and also the hate speech acts in place currently, such as Section 16 of the Constitution or such as Section 10 of the Equality Act, don't really make that clear, and there is room for offense to be categorized as hate speech. And I think that is something that the hate speech bill should be able to address explicitly, as to say that there is an explicit emphasis on, sorry about that,
no worries.
There's explicit emphasis on dignity as being affronted, particularly when it comes to marginalized communities. And with the focus on the EFF and the AfriForum case, I think what we need to examine and look at is whether the group in question is particularly a group that has been marginalized or has a potential to be marginalized as a potential of the speech in question, which is the chant Boer.
Let's just take a look, listen at this, and we'll come back to the discussion and speak about dignity and room for offense in a moment.
I want to offend the racist who had declared that a black person kissing a white person is immoral, which is wrong. That alone is immoral, to say black and white can kiss. So I know when I sing this song, the racist white supremacist will still be offended. I disagree. Our struggle was never a hate. Our struggle was a struggle for a just cause, and it still is to date. We're not targeting any individuals. Ours is a struggle against a system of oppression that has robbed us of our land and our economy, and that's what we're engaged in.
As you alluded to, the hate speech concept can be broad and vague when we look at what the state is seized with when it comes to proposed amendments to South Africa's hate speech legislation. You speak of room for offense to be categorized as hate speech. Based on what we just heard, your interpretation?
Firstly, I do think that Malema's saying that the chant was actually kiss the Boer instead of kill the Boer was very disingenuous. I don't believe that to be the case. I don't believe that to be what they were actually chanting. But if we do take his interpretation at its word, I do believe that racists should not be given room to have particular discourse on particular topics in any meaningful way. I do believe that we want to build an inclusive society, and if we take Malema at his word, he is saying that black people and white people should be able to kiss each other. I think that is something to be commended. That is a hallmark of an inclusive society. But at the same time, I don't quite believe that is exactly what he was saying. I do believe that the chant was used to promote a political message. I do believe that it is more than anything a struggle song which is used to express black anger at white people and the land dispossession over the apartheid era. And as we know, Julius Malema's party and its ideologies that they believe that apartheid is not over and that there are still some transformations to be done and some systems to be dismantled. And those systems do pertain to land dispossession and the lack of adequate land reform. And so in that context, I do believe that the song Dubili Bonu, as it is originally sung, does not quite capture hate speech. I think it can be offensive, and I do think that there can be social and political questions to be asked of the song and whether it should be sung. But I don't believe that there should be any legal sanctions on the song.
Hate versus offensive speech. You mentioned the right to dignity or the violation of dignity a little bit earlier on. I'd like for us to take a look, listen at this, and engage in a moment.
My Lord, a real trauma of two people is called a real trauma. A trauma of my parents who have had to pick up the dead bodies in Soweto, of their children who went to school and came back dead. That is not called a real trauma. The 80s, our children killed in the 90s. That is not called a real trauma. A real trauma is white. It has got color. Of two families. I'm talking here, thousands of children have died. Thousands of children have seen their mothers being tortured. I was young when police walked into my mother's house and she was sleeping. They took off her blankets off. Men, she was not dressed up. She was sleeping. Men took off her blankets. I live with that for the rest of my life, that some strange men came into my house and took off the blankets of my mother to search if she's not a terrorist. That is not real trauma, because it's not white. A black child's trauma is not a trauma. We are still a traumatized nation, if you don't know. And that trauma is real. And don't push us to that pain, because when that day comes, we'll not be scared. We've lost everything. We survive by the day. We don't know what tomorrow holds for us.
Just elaborate on that.
I've elaborated.
When you say you'll not be scared, what do you intend by that?
I'm not scared of death. I'm not scared of death. I don't know why I'm still alive. I died long time ago. I'm not scared of killing. A revolutionary is a walking killing machine. Not scared of death. If that need arise, I will kill. And I will do so with no hesitation, especially in defense of my people.
This violation of dignity is still very much with him and many other South Africans in the country. This transition into democracy in South Africa, many have spoken about the unfinished business of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission and the unfinished business of South Africa when you take a look at some of these factors, as you pointed out earlier, that the song could be used to express anger against white people and the dispossession of land. How do we deal with this as a country, do you perceive?
I believe that instead of going to court and making this a legal case, I think this could be the beginning of a real conversation between white people and black people about the cultural divides that actually place us in opposition to one another. I do believe that we can build an inclusive society, and I do believe that there is a place to express black anger. And I don't think that should be met necessarily with what I might perceive to be white victimhood. I do not necessarily believe that some parts of the country really understand the dynamics of our country and the trauma that we've necessarily been through. When I think about the murders of LGBTQIA+ people in our country, when I think about the murders of women in our country, and I think about the silence of particular people in some corners of our country, I just ask myself how willing they are to actually contribute towards society as a whole, and not want to segregate themselves into their own little corner. And so I do believe that there is a place for meaningful conversations about the social and political nature of this country and why some people perceive apartheid to still be alive and why they're still traumatized by everything, by the social impacts of our democracy some 27 years later. I do think that there is, like you said, a lot of unfinished business, and I don't think that that necessarily has to end in violence. I don't necessarily think it has to end in an adversarial manner like in the courts. I think that we can have conversations between ourselves. I think we can build a rapport. I think there are a lot of ways in which we still need to tackle the issues of how apartheid and how white people as a group have benefited from black pain in South Africa.
Let's just take a listen at Professor Liz Gunner, Professor of Literature. She also appeared before court talking about the song. We'll engage in a moment.
I am saying that I think Malema is a relevant figure in contemporary South African politics, and that he comes from a lineage of politicians or would-be politicians who never became politicians who used song. So he's following through the continuity of song within the political domain in an innovative way that we have to listen to and we have to take seriously. We can't simply dismiss it as buffoonery. It has a message and a vision. And I'm saying, secondly, about the possibility of song and chant now, even the place, the position of them, even provocative ones, that they have a place. And I might say also that the term dubula has got a very, very long history within South African political song as a symbol of resistance and defiance and courage. It is not literal.
A final thought from you, I guess. We also saw 2 weeks ago, I think it was, when two women interrupted court proceedings when Ernest Roots was speaking, saying that this is part of our heritage. Julius Malema made mention of DSTV, which is in the national anthem in South Africa. Some sectors of society still questioning why it is part of the national anthem. So you have the singing of the song. You also have some sectors of society that believe it's part of our heritage. Your closing thought on this argument of erasing or, compromising on heritage in South Africa?
Firstly, I do believe that there is a place for black radical thought in South Africa. I think the very fact that Julius Malema is a relevant political figure shows that there are some sectors of the population that believe that black trauma and black pain is still very much a part of the black experience in South Africa. And secondly, I think that part of the cultural divide that I alluded to earlier does mean that the actual meaning of the song or the chant gets lost in translation. In effect, it is a struggle song which is meant to show defiance and to show courage in the face of struggle and adversity. And I think that if people read it literally, I think they will miss the nuances and the complexities that go along with the song and what it represents to black people. And I think that Julius Malema can be a problematic figure. And like I said, I think we can critique him socially, we can critique him politically for the use of the song, but I don't think that the song, in the way that we actually understand it as people who either lived through the struggle or continue to struggle in post-apartheid South Africa, recognize the song as literal, as being an instrument or being a conduit through which people go out and shoot other people. I don't think that is what Julius Malema intends, and I don't think that it's what the supporters intend. I think more than anything, it is an opportunity for black South Africans to voice out their anger, and I think rather than meeting it with resistance and victimhood, I think white South Africans have an opportunity to listen to what is actually being conveyed and to actually take action in a meaningful way that bolsters social cohesion in our country.
Wiseman Zondi is a researcher at Helen Suzman Foundation. Thank you for availing yourself this afternoon.